Viewer discretion is advised.
If you're not vulnerable, then you're not prepared to go all the way. You know what I mean?
True.
And for me, I'm just like, the way you give your loko to the kofunga when you kai your peta is the same way I give my loko to the octagon. I'm there to fight, you know. I'm ready to lay my shield out there, and if I die, I die.
Mandate.
Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is originally from Tamaki Makaurau, out in West Okilani, from Avondale, but now resides in Brisbane, sunny Brisbane in Australia. He is renowned for his punching power. He's durable, and also in the major leagues, in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And so the man is another proud Samoan, son of Samoa, and also a man who is a heavyweight contender. So please put your hands together for the man himself, Justin Badman Tafa!
It's Bruce Buffer, right?
You see him on the sun.
I want to go stand up, start fighting. I appreciate it. I appreciate for you guys having me.
Oh man, Maro love also. Hey, no, thank you once again for coming out. I know you've been a busy man today, and so just off the bat, before we kind of dive into the conversation, also, please tell us, man, because prior to UFC, what else were you doing, also?
Yeah, man, I was just saying before, you know, I was a youth worker. I was working at a youth homeless shelter out in north side of Brisbane, Caboolture, and I was there 3-4 years.
Man. And so the fighting game, because I know the fighting game has always been in your family. I know your grandfather was a boxer as well, and so is that something that you always knew that you were going to be in the UFC, or was there something that kind of you just fell in it because it was just natural for you to get into the fight game? Yeah,
man, I never thought I was ever going to fight ever. You know, I was like any other boy on the come up, just wanting to be All Black or play footy, and then fighting just always came around, you know, like whether it be on the rugby field or out and about, that kind of altercation I was good at. And I was doing all right at footy. I went and played my juniors at Melbourne Storm, and then I lost the passion for footy, and fighting was always there kind of thing. It just was always around me, and I just found my way in after footy, and I joined the kickboxing gym. And I just thought, man, maybe I'll just have one fight just to shake off this footy dream that I ended with, and that one win got contagious. I was like, man, that was the best feeling. And then from then on, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. The goals kept getting bigger and bigger, and ended up fighting in the UFC.
Damn. One of the things that interested me is you had mentioned somewhere, I can't remember exactly where, but you'd fought less than 5 rounds of fighting in front of a crowd of about 500, and then all of a sudden it was like a crowd of 50,000. What was, that's such a massive jump. What was the leap like from that to where you're at now?
Man, it was, you can't explain it, eh? Like, I try to compare it to something, but it's real hard to compare with. But it really shocked me because I tried to get some advice from Israel, Adesanya, and he was just like, bro, you can either absorb the energy of the crowd or you can just deflect it and stay like laser focused. And that fight, I thought, you know what, I'll absorb the energy and I'll see how I go. And I ended up getting starched that fight, and I knew it was because I thought riding off the energy of the crowd was my way, but it wasn't. It was just a good lesson, you know. I remember looking up to the furthest point in that stadium, man, and there were still people standing. And I was like, damn, man, I was fighting at a pub just before this a few months ago. Now, it was like 50, almost 60,000 people there. And they all just eyes on you, you know, 2 guys in the middle of the octagon. And it was pretty scary, but I wouldn't have any other way now. You know, that was the biggest of the big. It can't get any worse than that in some sense.
Cool, man.
Was it challenging to come back from that? Yeah,
for sure. You know, the biggest shock for me is that I'm not much of a speaker. I'm not out there and outgoing or whatnot. I'm quite the introvert. And seeing like my messages blow up, man, like I had more messages than followers, you know, and I was just like, damn, this is insane. A lot from my own people, and just bagging me and whatnot, and telling me how bad of a fighter I was, a disgrace to Samoa, this, that. Man, you should just go jump in front of a train or something. And at first I was like, damn, man, I wasn't used to this. I was taking it to heart. Especially, like, I didn't mind, like, other people talking shit because I don't know them at all, you know, I can't relate to them. But when I see a brown face to the profile, that's someone I see myself in, you know, and it was real disheartening, and I remember I was a bit lost for a bit. But I remember my my auntie was always saying, like, she was in a coma once, she woke up and she's like, I dreamt of you in America in front of thousands of people. And I was like, I always stuck to that. And I knew, no, that was just the start. Shook it off and asked for a fight, and I fought a couple months later.
Man, shucks. That's sad. Did you message? Were you one of the kids?
It made it worse, man.
That's fine.
I fought in like November, I think it was. I fought in Feb. I knocked this guy out in Houston, and the same guys, they messaged their hate.
They were showing love.
Showing love. They hadn't even deleted their message beforehand. I was like, holy. That's when I knew, you know, like, oh, that's when I was like, man, these guys don't care what's happening, you know. They're just sitting on the fence, you know, waiting on what side they're for, and then they'll bag me no matter what.
Jeez. Because I remember that fight, Justin, with De Castro, eh?
Yeah.
And so, like you say, is it because you kind of, the whole event got the better of you at the time? Like, oh man, it's a massive crowd, and then what do you reckon? Did you lose a bit of focus at that time when you jumped into the octagon, or was it just?
Well, the thing was, I was hurting him, and I could see in his eyes he was getting shook, and I just shot the gun too fast and too early, and my mind went before my body kind of thing. So I used to just relay that moment. I was like, man, that was the ugliest punch. I deserved to get knocked out for that. But it was just overwhelming, and you know, I wasn't used to cameras in my face. I wasn't used to like seeing like celebrities in that. I remember I was like, damn, that's the guy from Avengers, and I was like, oh yeah. Well, man, I remember Mark Hunt saying, he see me after, and he's like, looking at me, he's like, you know, at least that's the worst that can ever happen, eh? And I was like, oh yeah, hard. And I just laughed it off, and I was like, yeah, he's right.
Man, but because you know, when he caught you, also, how do you get back from there? Because you were saying that people were trolling, even some of our people trolling you. But how do you kind of like mentally like prepare yourself to like get back up again? Because some people are like, oh man, like you were saying, oh man, you get fucking ma, like oh man, I don't know, man. And I don't know, maybe some doubt could have crept in your mind, or how did you get up and just say, you know what? It's just one of those things. I'm gonna carry on.
Man, honestly, I just changed my point of view on it. I was like, you know what, man, only I'm hard enough to come back from this. You know, that's the way I saw it. I was in camp, and I was like, and what a story will be. You know, like I'm that tough that I can do that, and it just like made me even more hungrier. Yeah. I was like, I used to look in the mirror, and I'd be like, fuck, you are that tough cunt, you know. Can I say?
Yeah, of course, man.
And man, I even say that to people now. Like that's still my mentality. Look at what, like, bro, I could get knocked out in front of all those dudes and come back. I don't care what anyone says, and I grew a lot from like reinforcing those thoughts. And man, I came back. I remember I was walking down in Houston. It was like Porzingis here, Halle Berry there, you know, Russell Westbrook here. I was like, damn, this is the JJ Watt over there. I was like, holy heck, man, what did I get myself into? But I was like, you know,
yeah,
I belong here. Ended up finishing him in the first round, and man, they just like, that was it. I was like, nah, I know what I'm doing.
Gee.
It's always interesting, eh? Because some people, they can be a bit trigger shy when something happens like that. Like, you know, it's hard to keep that same energy. And so I wonder, where does that determination come from? We know that you're from a family of fighters, but is it sort of the circle that you keep? Is it family? Is it hereditary? Is it like, you know, what is it about your life that's given you that sort of determination to persevere no matter what?
I think, man, there's like 4 of us here. I got 3 brothers, and we're just real competitive, and I was just a sore loser. That's it, man. Like, I hated to lose anything. Even like if we do like workouts, I hate to lose the workout. And I used to I'll partner up with my brothers, and they're like, bro, relax, it's just a workout. I was like, no, we gotta win. I think that's where it come from, you know, like in 40 I hated losing. Even in volleyball I hated losing. I just had a competitive nature, and it was like, I used to think it was a bad thing being a sore loser until these kind of moments come, and I was like, nah, this is why, you know, this is why.
Yeah. You know, man, it's sad that like our own people were sending you those messages, but like for a lot of, it probably all been a part of it too, but people don't realize, like, people we look at, like celebrities and fighters, like, they're human as well, and they have feelings. And I know there's a lot of talk when, especially those who've been in the game for ages, go, oh no, I don't read those comments. But man, you're human, eh?
100%, man. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
There's no way someone's, words are, they're saying is like sticks and stones and that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's true, like if your loved one said something bad to you, it will hurt your heart,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, I'm just anyone else, I try to relay that all the time. I say that to the guys at my gym. Like, you guys see me come in, day in, day out. Man, I'm human just like you guys, so whatever I'm doing at whatever platform is, it's attainable kind of thing. So that kind of thing is like, I'm trying to humanize myself in some sense, yeah.
And I guess, like, the light of it is that you got to differentiate real quick who's for you, who's not, and who's your inner circle, and like who are the ones you keep around you that you end up listening to, and they add fire to what you do.
Obviously, my family. It's good too that they fight, so they come from a point of view where they can relate. My kids and my tight knit friends that I still come and see here in Auckland, I still see them to the who rides for you because they cop the loss just as bad as you cop the loss. You know what I mean? Like, they're down for the week, like I'm down. So, nah, man, it's good to be able to draw that line quick in some sense. So it's kind of that blessing in disguise. But man, it's still hard though, because you always want to put on for your, for your country and that. And there's still those that stray away, and those guys that slip through the cracks, and whatever they're saying is like gets to you, but that comes with the the job.
That's me. And shout out also, like, we're all massive fight fans here, and I'm not gonna lie, like, when we saw the message come through, like, we're always asking people, oh man, you all good to come on, but when you had message, I was like, sorry, I was trying not to be a girl or like cream my undies, but
the man was shadowboxing you.
But like, for me, it's like when we see someone that looks like us, that comes from like a community like us, that wears the malo fear with pride, it's like, man, that's one of our people. And for a lot of us that work with the next generation, that the youth work teaching, it's like we know where these kids come from. And when we see someone like you, like on the big stage, like fighting through the dreams, everyone sees the reality, the cool stuff, but don't realize there's this hard grind. But it's possible for this generation. And I don't know, I just want to shout out to like you and all the other brothers out there, and probably touch on that as well, because you've done youth work as well. Like, you've grown up in Central, and it wasn't easy out those ways. What was it like growing up in this journey that you've gone on?
Yeah, man, it's something I always say. I always, just like I said, I always say to anyone, and my family, like, me and my brothers, like, we were the black sheep of our whole family, and we were just, single mum, state housing, all of that. We did all of that, hand me downs on the yum-yums and bread all week. So, like, we just used that as fuel in some sense. Never let that define us and put us in a box or whatnot. We used that as something to make ourselves bigger and better. And it's still good to know where we come from, It usually takes me coming back here and going past the streets and that, when my brother used to do the runners at the dairies and that. It's growth now, but man, you had to do what you had to do, and I think that all that stuff was character building for a reason. All that stuff happened for a reason, and that's why we can stand strong during those adversity and that.
Man,
Sure, also.
I love also, because man, props to you also, because I think a lot of young men or women out there watching this and who want to be in the UFC, they look at the glitz and the glamour, like, oh man, the crowd is it's awesome. But also, can you kind of run through, like, what does it really take? Because I can just imagine, man, it's a lot of sweat, a lot of blood, a lot of tears, because you can't just rock up and think, oh, I'm a good fighter, man, I got skills, I can actually be in the UFC. But tell some of these guys who aspire to be in the UFC, what does it really take to be in that octagon?
Yeah, man, it's real hard because I'm a big believer in it's your will that will get you past anything. I'm that kind of warrior spirit, kind of mentality person. At the same time, it takes a lot of discipline and hard work to understand the important things we're fighting, especially MMA. There's so many different aspects of our martial arts that you have to be decent at to, fight at a high level. So like, just being aware of that, but also having that dog in you, it's just as important because there are a lot of good martial artists out there, black belt in every single discipline, but if they didn't have that ticker, man, that's just nothing, It's bread and butter folded, you know what I mean?
Do you think? Do you think Samoans have that dog? Like, man, because some of our bigger stars are not trying to, 6'8", but hey,
just say it, man. 6'5", baby.
David Tua up there, Mark Hunt, and we got you and your brothers coming through. Bam Bam,
Max Holloway. Who else is there, man?
Rob Whittaker.
Rob Whittaker.
We'll take him all.
Yeah, do you think it's just in our blood, or was it all the hidings that we had when we growing up?
I don't know. Like people, they always ask me, man, these Fijians are big people, man. How come there's not many of you like in the UFC or Tongans or Cook Islands, and we're all from the same origins, and I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe it's something in our culture traditions that. I just think that banter, man, gave us thick skin. Getting roasted and whatnot. You get that little. That's all. I don't know. I always think about it too. I'm like, man, what makes us so successful, man? There's time after time. There's a great boxer, a great MMA fighter, and I think it is that local, that we have. It's like embedded in us, and we just. It shines at the right time, man, and during those altercations and that. So that's all I can put it down to.
That's cool.
Yeah, just a tangent off that. I'm curious about how it is thinking about how people, we love to scrap, we're known for iron chins and heavy hands. And so stand-up fighting, like boxing, kickboxing, all that sort of thing, comes somewhat naturally to some degree, yeah? Sort of similar to how people just assume islanders can play rugby. It's a lot easier for us to pick it up compared to others. But I wonder then, how is it for you having to learn, you touched on it a little bit with MMA, there's so many different aspects. So having to pick up things like BJJ, throwing up triangles with calves and thighs and stickers, ours can be a bit tricky, but how has it been for you having to learn some of these new things like wrestling and BJJ and all that sort of stuff?
No, it's been fun. I think we're lucky that we like rugby and it's another passion of ours, and that translates well with the wrestling and the grappling, like you grow up hitting people at the backyard, and it's somewhat similar when you start wrestling and whatnot. But definitely, I think we just have to alter with our builds the different kind of moves that we can do. Because in class, they're like, hey, can you throw up a flying triangle? I was like, I think my legs can do that. But man, I feel like we're still at like a starting stages of MMA for Polynesians, and look how many great fighters have come. Yeah. We still haven't specialized in what like what you said, all the grappling side of things, and we still produced guys like Max Holloway, who I've spoken to and said he's a proud Samoan. Even Rob Whittaker, man, and they were both UFC champions. So if that's us at stage one, I just can't wait for what the future holds. The hybrids.
Hard. And I got a black belt in BD.
With a golden buckle.
The wife's not here to verify.
So, can you delete this up, bro?
Oh, man. But even that, Uzo, because you're right. You see the Samoans and obviously the Pacific Islanders, Tongans and so forth. It comes natural, like what Jay was saying. It's quite natural that our people are into the fight game. And you look at Max Holloway, you look at his conditioning, just crazy conditioning. Just one of the guys, you look at it, are you sure the size of Max Holloway? He's one of those Samoans who are quite thin. But I just wanted to ask, because mix. You think of Mark Hunt. How much of an influence has Mark Hunt been for you? As one of the kind of the forerunners or the guys who kind of been in the fight game for years, but how instrumental has he been in terms of inspiring you, but also kind of advising you in the fight game?
Man, he's. I wouldn't be in the UFC if it wasn't for him. You know what I mean? He scooped myself and my young brother up early in, early in our careers, and he seen something in us and took us to all his camps in Thailand and took us to Vegas and whatnot. And I think that the biggest lessons he showed us was like that mentality that everyone's the same, eh? Because he's just like he's a normal guy, and then he's like, look at these guys, man, they're just normal dudes. And the respect that was given to him amongst other great fighters, and they're just looking at it, and I was like, man, I spend a lot of time with Mark, and he's just like a normal dude. Yeah, man, guys like Daniel call me like, oh, they're like, Mark, man, like, wow, it's an honor. And I was like, oh, this guy. But it's one of those things where you had to show someone, really like put them in his shoes and show how possible it was. Show that, man, there's nothing that really differentiate, like there's a difference between us and them. And our team was, myself, Junior, Bam Bam, Pedro, and Carlos. Now we're on the UFC, so whatever he was trying to show us, man, it was right, because now we're at the pinnacle of combat sports. And man, he just doesn't get the rap that he deserves. And we were in we weren't big ballers or anything. Like, we got families to pay, like to serve, and he used to cover all our bills and pay us to come to these camps. And it wasn't for him. He already knew how to fight. He's been fighting since '99 in K1. He was doing it for us. So that's that kind of service, man. He's always a legend in my eyes, and man, I always regard him as my mentor. Yeah.
That's cool, man. And it's sad because, especially out these ways, New Zealand, I'm not too sure about Australia, but like media, we don't really hype up our fighters. Like, they're, man, when it comes to rugby, they're at the bottom of the heap. But man, we've got some of the best sportsmen, athletes in the world, and we're not even pushing them. It's only the people, yeah. It's sad. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I don't mind. The world's big enough.
Yeah, true.
I like walking the streets and just being a normal person and picking up my son from school, and no one bats an eye. But now it's getting a bit different. But it would be good to be acknowledged more, Just like the All Blacks, man, the same probability to be a UFC fighter is the same as being an All Black. So they should appreciate how hard it is and whatnot, and just show love in that. But I feel like the media, the big influence, for the wider audience to understand that, appreciation. Like, obviously all the Islanders, they ride or die, or they were supportive of all our stuff. But if the media don't push it through, like on the newspapers and that, man, the rest of the people won't know.
Yeah.
You mentioned picking up your kid from school, and I there's kind of two parts to this, but the first one was, do you have ambitions for your kids to join the fight game, or because you understand the true cost of it? So I'm curious about whether that's something you'd like as a legacy thing, or it's up to them, or you don't want them in it.
It's up to them. I don't mind, Like, if they want to, even with anything, like if they want to, I'll be there trying to do my best to guide them whatever they want to do. But and my son's been around the gym since he was a baby, and now he's almost 8. He's seen guys get knocked out cold, and that it doesn't even faze him. He's like, "Wow, you should have put your hands up." But he's never trained, and I didn't force him. He's been around that many great fighters, and I was like, if he wants to, he can. If not, so be it. You know what I mean?
That's cool. The next part to that was, why do you fight? You've sort of talked a little bit about what led you to it, but people have talked about whether it's glory, legacy, just to provide, to use the talent, or for respect. But what is the big idea that drives Justin Tafa to be a fighter?
Yeah, like you said, it's my talent kind of thing, but I love the competition. You know, I love to fight. I used to fight anyway, you know. I'll fight it, but no, in a controlled manner. But and my grandpa used to always bicker. Like I used to think it was bicker, you know, back when I was younger. Oh shit, man, not this lesson again. And he used to say, man, so long as you honor whatever talents God gave you, you know, you'll get my blessings and that. I didn't really get it when I was younger, but when I got older and whatnot, I was like, oh man, this is what I'm good at. This is my way of serving my family through these talents, and that's fighting. And now that's what I'm doing now, you know, like trying to use my talents just to play my part.
That's cool. And when you think back to, you know, the advice from your grandfather, and even I guess sort of reflecting on your own self, like how has fighting affected you as a father? Because they're completely different, but there's no way to separate them entirely. There must be some crossover there. So how does fighting affect you as a father?
Oh man, I'm still learning now, but I think being able to be a father and my son knowing who I am as a, you know, where I stand in the community and whatnot, and being a public figure, but still being that same father, I think that's what he cherishes a lot. He's like, oh, that's my dad, but he'll come out to the stadium in front of a sold out stadium and seeing, oh, that's my dad too. And it was pretty cool. But just that, I think he appreciates a lot. That's why he's a good boy and listens all the time.
That's good, man. Sounds like you're a good dad also. But you mentioned earlier on that you and your brothers were raised up with your mom, just solo mom. So when you talk about fatherhood, how was that for you in terms of your dad was in the picture at that time, and so I don't know if he's in the picture now, but how did it pan out for you in terms of kind of growing up with just mom in the household?
Honestly, I think for me, like the blessing of being an islander is that we're all strong, you know, family orientated people and big families too. So I had a lot of uncles and my grandpa and that to rely on for that male figure. But man, my dad was a big dude, man. Around the hood, he was a scary guy, known to be a good scrapper, man, and did a lot of time in jail. You know, even Alex Leopold would be like, man, your dad, man, he was a scary dude. And that guy fought Vladimir Klitschko, you know? So I knew, my dad's not a man of too many words, but I was like, man, Dad, Leopold said that you were quite a tough dude. He's like, nah. But, you know, he had his demons. When I was younger, I used to resent him and that, but until you get older and you understand mental health and all this and their upbringings, then you come to be at peace more, you know, as to why things happen certain ways. And now I get more knowledge on mental health. I'm like, man, it was actually quite rough, you know. But yeah, definitely one of my uncles was one of my main role models. My firstborn's my son's namesake. Tough man. He was, you know, there in church 24/7. He worked 24/7. I was like, man, do you ever sleep? And at the time, I didn't really appreciate it or understand it. I didn't really bat an eye to it or anything until I was later, like, had my own child. I was like, man, this stuff's hard, man. Carrying a family is tough. He did it with no complaint. So yeah, just having that big family was really helpful, man. It's true, you know, it takes a village, and I was lucky enough my village was, you know, had all the right pieces to the puzzle.
That's nice. Also with that, you know, the resentment towards your dad, because it could have went any way, and for a lot of our young men, they hold that anger and they'll take them on a different path. Like, how was that, like, reconciliation, or was there a healing process for you letting it go?
Yeah, oh man, I was quite a bright kid growing up, because I already knew there was things weren't adding up, you know. There was a reason why things weren't piecing together, and I knew my grandfather's past too, so I was adding one and one. And it wasn't until I started taking up youth work and going to these courses and stuff, and trauma courses and whatnot, and then I was like using my dad as a guinea pig kind of thing in his situation, and I was like, dang, that's rough, you know. So yeah, I still got mad love for my dad and that, you know, like my mother's side are the ones that box, but my dad was he was a tough cunt, man. And a lot of people know that. Then it was the dog and him. That's why we have our dog, you know. But we understand now, you know. Like, I think a big part of the being at peace was like reflecting on yourself and knowing, man, you're not all good too. You know, I got my faults as well, and I understand where those faults come from, and then look at him and be like, man, yeah, that's why.
And that's not an easy thing for us men, and especially
100%.
like reflecting.
Yeah, we're quite reactive people, you know, very passionate and stuff. It just takes some guidance to understand. If you can step back and look at all angles, man, you can get a better picture. And then that was the thing, like for myself, I stood back and pretended I was in his shoes and assessing all this, you know, all the trauma and that, and I was like, damn, yeah, that's a tough gig, man. Because my old man was a good footy player, played New Zealand 19s, 21s, he wasn't, you know. And I was like, man, even if you're talented and that, there's stuff that, even hereditary mental illnesses and that I think he has, and I was like, hopefully I don't.
You'd be all good.
Brilliant, man.
Sounds like you got the right people around you too. So.
Yeah, but you're right, because you touched on a really important topic in terms of mental health, also. And obviously it's quite prominent now. People talk about mental health everywhere, mental well-being. And so for yourself, you talk about trauma. So how do you, what's some of the tips or techniques that you have taken on board to kind of, you know, when you're going through a bad day, if you're going through some hardships or struggles, what are some of the things that you kind of have gleaned and learned that kind of keep you up to par or just keep you sane?
I think it's like being aware of yourself and that, eh? Like, it's cliche and everyone always says it, but if you know your flags and that, what ticks you off or what kind of behaviors you do when you're not right, and you can assess yourself and be like, damn, shit, I'm not feeling good, and then understand your anchors or things that you know, those self-care things. Like, as much as people blab on about it, but when they do it, that's the things that actually save them, eh? And for me, it's all like having time away to think. You know, maybe it's a long drive or something, or being around my kids or something, and really places where you can just think. And that's like that was my kind of thing, because camps get quite stressful and whatnot, you know, and you don't want to be that angry dude that during camp because you're cutting weight and you're training 3 times a day. You know, one day you might slip and you have a bad day, but when I'm aware I am, then I just take a cruise and listen to your guys' podcast or something. Nah, but yeah, that's what I do.
Oh,
Just making sure I'm aware, you know, like, or ask my missus and that, or she'll say something like a word or something. They'll be like, "Hey, yeah, you're not up to it today."
That's good, man. Cool. Appreciate that, Us.
And it's awesome to kind of see you, like, you know, you've talked about the determination to bounce back with fighting, but just to hear about it in other facets of life, like just some of the other stuff you've had to overcome. And I agree 100%, like just in terms of taking the time to reflect and get some perspective. And, you know, there is a lot of generational trauma that we inherit, and sometimes we don't even realize we have inherited it. And the journey to sort of understand that aspect of ourselves is a lifelong thing. You know, we're always learning. So just big ups to you for being able to get through that, but also just to speak about it openly. One of the things I remember that stuck out to me that you had mentioned was that you said, I always want to represent Auckland, especially Avondale, and I fly the flag of Samoa because we're a minority, and I want to be an inspiration for the young people of my culture. And I just saw how cool it is that you're not only just inspiring young people, but like we're older than you and we're still inspired. And that's just cool. Like Charles was saying that, like, you know, we're all involved with youth and younger people. And it's cool to be able to like point and be like, that's what you want to do. There are people that look like you there. And you sort of mentioned something in that last answer about, one of the previous answers about talent and hard work. And so just touching really quickly on your journey as a fighter from up and comer to where you're at now. You've trained at different gyms, Tiger Muay Thai, City Kickboxing, all over the place. Have you seen that whole argument of talent and hard work play out in the gym, where you see people that ultimate talented and then others that have to put the hard work in?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
what's that been like?
Man, just, like, prime example is my younger brother, Junior. Man, he's talented as. But I'm not as good as a fighter as he is. But I understand through my footy, everything I learned in footy, that if you train hard enough and work hard enough, man, you can still come up to that level. And we always talk about it and joke about it, but that's like a prime example, man. Like, fighting comes natural to him. Like, he got a good eye, boom, boom, boom. Whereas me, I had to train maybe twice as hard to get to that same level, you know what I mean? And each to their own, but at the same time, man, if those talented guys work hard and he's worked hard, man, it's even more dangerous. But definitely a possibility that if you work hard enough, you can be up there. Like, some of those guys at Tiger, man, they're killers, man, and they train like 4 times a day. Like, I was like, man, this is the determination. Like, and they tell me, man, I wasn't as, like, this is my earlier fights. I'm like, damn, man, there's some of them world champs now. And does it come down to they were talented, or because they put 40 hours of training in? I was like, man, maybe it was the 40 hours of training, eh? So yeah, they're both, but definitely hard work. I feel like that trumps talent. If talent's mediocre, man, if they're not training as hard, hard work will always trump. Because what happens is you always push yourself to that limit, and then you start being used to being uncomfortable, Whereas that talent, they never hit that comfortability. But when you're working hard and you're constantly pushing yourself to that limit, you get comfortable, and then you're like, the calluses on your hand, it reflect how hard you're working. And the same concept, like, man, it's getting tougher and tougher to get used to more weight and more weight and more weight. The same with the hard work. It's like, the more you work hard, the more used to the deep waters and that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because you think about Uso, because you get a lot of Pacific Islanders out there in the fight game now, and I don't know if you've heard it as well, the kind of stereotype, like, oh, yeah, they're just big, but they got no gas in the tank, they're not fit, all that kind of stuff. What do you see now in terms of these new fighters, like yourself? Do you realize now that, no, I just can't rely on my laurels and my power, and my chin, but I need to train the house down?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think just history, having guys like Tua and that set the platform for us. We're like, it's been in front of us for so long now. It's just normal to know that, it's like common sense to know that our strengths are in our power, but our downfalls if we don't have the gas. And it's good that you got guys like Eugene Behrman and that are Samoan and well aware of that. So they drill it harder, even harder for the Islanders at their gym, to make sure you work even harder. We have to really make sure our cardio is up to par, because there's only 1 in a million Max Holloways, you know what I mean? And someone that has non-stop cardio. So we just got, like you said, our talent is in the power, but our hard work is in the gas.
That's me.
Because what's your mindset when you rock up in the mornings, and the early hours in the morning you have to train? Is it still like, man, yeah, I can't wait to get up and just train? It was like, damn, gotta get up.
Oh, now I've like understood the process. It's quite easy to get up during a camp, because I wake up, I see my kids in there, and I'm like, I'm not gonna waste my time away. I'm not gonna go there and just, whinge my way through a session. I'm like, man, my kids are here. They're asleep. My partner's looking after them while I'm away. 4:30. I wake up 4:30, train, and I train again 9:30, and again at 4:30 p.m. during my fight camp. So I'm like, man, I need to make use of this time away. It's a lot of time and concentration away from your family. Because if your goal is to knock this guy out, you're not going to be like, oh, hey, son, yeah, how's your day, blah, 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 and then flick from that mode straight to, I need to knock this guy out. It's real hard to. So during those 12-week camps, man, your mindset, on the majority of the time, is on that dude, on that opponent that's training just as hard as you to beat you in front of your family, in front of the world.
Do you think taking it on personally, like, people can sometimes turn things personal. Do you think there are benefits to that and that it would make you perform better? I guess it depends on the person, but for yourself, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't really care. Like, honestly, I used to work the doors and that, so I think that's where I got that. I just aware of all that kind of stuff and people trying to egg you on and that for a scrap and whatnot. But yeah, I've had that in the past where guys are trying to make it personal, and I'm just like, bro, I'll fight anyone anywhere. Like, and I didn't even have to be angry to fight. You know what I mean? It's just something that I grew up with, and I didn't take any personal things. I didn't let it affect me or anything. I'm just there to perform, like, focus on my own performance. Eh? The knockout will come if it comes.
Has there been a fighter also that you kind of felt like in your fighting career, like, man, this guy, I hate this dude, man, I'm gonna smash his face, man. Like, has there been someone like that in the past, or even kind of the fighters coming up?
No, man, I don't really care about all that stuff. Eh? Like, honestly, like, unless someone says something directly to me or something, I don't. I fought a Brazilian guy once. As they tried to do this, eye me out. Oh my man, I'm from Auckland, bro. Like, that's normal, man. He's trying to play those mind games. So like, bro, this is my whole high school years eyeing people out. Bro, like, what makes you so special? You know, even trash talk on the footy fields and that, man. Even the banter at home is, man. My aunties mock me way harder than these guys, bro. They're like, son, you know. Like, you're getting fat. But that cuts way deeper than these guys like trying to mouth off to me in front of the media. We're lucky in that sense.
So what you're saying is you scrap your aunties?
Well, I'm saying I still do the dishes with my aunties.
That's me. You spoke about like how excited you are for your brothers to come through. What does it mean to train with your brothers and then now having Junior come through into the UFC?
I think it's a matter of time, mate, to be honest. Man, I know how great he is. It's just now the time for the world to see it. We got a good balance amongst us. My older brothers are like he's a realist, eh? Man, he's a straight shooter. And that's what you need, you know. And me and Junior, we have our different point of views too, and so does my youngest brother. But as a collective, it's good because we shoot it from all angles, and when we come up with like a certain theory or something, man, we have like arguments, but it's good arguments, you know what I mean? We didn't have a group of yes people like agreeing to whatever we say and whatnot. We got a real talk like, man, if I think I'm doing good at this, and maybe I am, but there's more stuff to improve on. My older brother would be like, oh yeah, that was good, but man, look at that was trash. Or Junior would be like, oh man, that was good, but look at this will work too. So it's a blessing that they all know how to fight because it gives us like good angles to come from. Yeah,
it's cool. And also, you know, I think you might be one of three that have the title in the UFC. You, Tyson, Bam Bam.
Yeah, me, Tyson, Bam Bam.
Man, what does it mean to you to one, undertake that, but then, you know, do you wear it with pride when you go out? Yeah,
for sure. Man, like a lot of people know that before the parades I was flying that flag, you know what I mean? Before the parades I was walking out to RSC and that, you know, I was a diehard before anything and before any hype. Yeah, to get the belt was a big deal. You know, my grandfather was getting old and he said, oh man, you should get the belt. And I was like, hell no. But man, my family, I can speak Samoan, but not to the extent where I knew all the formalities and that. But he said, man, if you're ready to serve, go to the family and whatnot in the village. Man, you didn't have to go towards that saying, and that. It's your impact to Samoa, you know. Yeah. What kind of impact are you doing to the people, you know? And I was like, yeah, I'll be ready. We chatted on Thursday and I started going on Monday. I was like, what I get myself into?
Oh, wow.
But that's the biggest take I took from it was, I told my grandpa, man, I'm going to fight. Your last name's going to be everywhere. You know, your name's going to be flying on the banners everywhere. Don't you worry. And now it's come to fruition in that. And it was all just to serve my family and my country proud. That's all it was, you know. If I didn't think I was going to fight big, honestly, I wasn't going to get it, you know what I mean? Because I knew my talents were towards fighting. And if I couldn't serve my family through my talents, like, why would I get this? But I was that sure I was gonna, man, I was only 3 fights in my career, and I was like, man, I didn't. But I was sure when my grandpa said it, and he offered me that challenge. And he passed on, and he didn't get to see us fight, but now, man, I know he's up there like, oh, you know me, Mika and that. But that's all it was. It was just me saying I was ready to serve Samoa and my village, and especially my family.
Sure, so.
Man. Because, we talked about family and also your tatao. But also, just because you just mentioned your granddad, how much of an influence has your granddad been? Because it sounds like a very instrumental man in your life. And so if you can touch, or you can just tell us, like, what is it about your granddad? What's so special about your granddad that kind of inspires you?
Honestly, it was just the way he served our family, man. He's a very tough guy. Oh, man, I used to complain about it all the time, but I understood it when I was older, you know. You really gotta serve your family well. And I used to live with my grandfather and used to wake up like clockwork at 4:30, pray, sing, same at night, every day, you know. And I understood it when I got older and older about the importance it was to, you know, role model that stuff. That's why my uncles and that are well, and I think my blessings now with my brothers are from his hundreds or thousands of prayers, you know. It might skip a generation, and now we're the fruits to his labor. But no, he's a man. I always give him props whenever I can, kind of thing. Hopefully, when my time comes and I see him again, he won't grow me off.
I can guarantee he's proud, bro. He's very proud, man. The Tafa name is out there. Well done,
Man, awesome to hear you honour him. It makes me think about what your thoughts are on what you want your kids to build on from you. What do you want them to do better? Because at least I'd like to hope that every generation is trying to do their best to honour by building on what our predecessors have done. So what are your hopes for your children that they build on your legacy?
Man, I just hope they do better, but it's kind of my role, you know, that's my job now. You know, they say, man, what's that saying? But like, tough men breed soft, you know, soft people, and that. So I'm trying to find that line where I am doing the hard yards and I'm at that peak. But yeah, my son's learning those tough lessons too, so that when his time comes, he's still got that toughness to him too. And then if that comes good, I know for sure he's gonna do something great, you know. But that's probably my main goal now as a father, is understanding that fine line between you know, pushing him and not forcing that push kind of thing. And obviously it's gonna be big shoes to fill, you know, being a UFC. Oh, your dad's a UFC fighter and this and that. Your uncle's a UFC. Man, what are you gonna? Still kind of using that as fuel to be a better person, but not push it where it has to define him, you know, in some sense. And my sons, and I know for sure, man, like the way he's going now, man, he's gonna be a great kid, man. He's a really lovely kid. So I feel like I'm doing well, and I just need to continue it.
Man, that's awesome. You sort of mentioned something there about using it as fuel, and it just made me think about how thin the line is between fuel and fire. Like 100%. Sometimes those expectations, they can drive you, but other times they can cripple you so bad. And so just thinking about the fine line, and even just within your brothers, you know, and having the family legacy that you have. Was there ever a time where you felt like it was almost suffocating having the expectations to have to step in and...
Nah, honestly, like if you ever speak to my brothers, I've been that guy, you know. I'll carry that burden kind of thing, and I see it more as more of a challenge. I never shied away from that adversity. And I really knew after that fight when I lost in Melbourne, my debut in the UFC, that my brothers were looking at me and kind of, you know, oh, what's he gonna do here? What's he gonna do here? Even though they're my brothers, they're still like waiting for my move, because I was the one that used to dip their foot first into everything. So I really knew it was important for me to bounce back so they can see that's what you do, you know. If you're down and you work yourself back up and you'll persevere. And I remember that's what they were just like real proud of. They were like, "Fuck, bro, you're tough, bro." And I was appreciate it. Really, they're like, I could see in their eyes, they were like, bro, that takes some balls, bro. Especially coming from your brothers, man. It was like,
Cool.
I could see how big it was for them.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
UFC and fighting's given you this platform, and a lot of people know you because of fighting. Who was Justin outside of UFC? Like, if you went doing UFC, what would you be doing?
Man, I'm pretty normal. I chill at home all the time. Just see family, play PlayStation, and I think I'm a good smoker on the barbecue. I'm trying. Let's just say that. But no, I'm just a real family guy. Don't really go out much or anything, and yeah, just like home's where the hardest kind of thing.
Do you think, because I don't know how long your career will go, do you think you'll end up going back into youth work or community work after your time's done?
Yeah, for sure. That's one of my big goals in life is to I want to be a doctor of philosophy. That's one of my big goals. You know, something I set before I'm 50. This is something I want to achieve. Also, being like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, something I want to achieve, and it's just something big because I want to be able to. Man, if I was so good at fighting and I loved youth work, there's a way to mold that together, create some sort of program where it gives these guys a better coping mechanisms to trauma and stress and whatnot, and I know I can find that.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's awesome. You know what's so cool, Justin, because, you know, people might think, oh, well, UFC, man, I've made the pinnacle. I'm in the fight game, and this is the ultimate fighting championship. And people think, oh, yeah, just stop there or kind of rest on their laurels and think, oh, yeah, I've done this and that. But I love the fact that you said, hey, I got other goals. This is one of my goals, but I have other goals that are lined up. And it's really inspiring. I can guarantee a lot of men who are watching this and women watching this go, hey, man, because people might think, oh, that's just the goal. That's the ultimate goal. But you keep moving. You keep motivating yourself. So how like in terms of the motivation, what is your ultimate motivation? Obviously, your family. You talk about your family, culture, but for yourself, when the lights are off, when you're by yourself and just you in the dark, what motivates you to keep on going? Like, man, I just gotta keep going. This is who I am, Justin Tafa. Tell us or tell the person who wants to know, like, man, I want to know what's in here. I want to know how to keep going, even in the midst of adversity.
Man, I spoke about this earlier with my partner. It was just seeing like my auntie and that. They wake up at 4 o'clock, work 12 hours, come back, 2-hour traffic, with a smile on their face. I'm like, man, if she can do that, man, I'm pretty sure I can do this stuff kind of thing. And I'll never rest, until I give them the freedom they deserve. Man, I still got work to do, That's the way I see it. My mum and my aunties and that, until they get that freedom, why should I rest, That's a big thing for me.
Nice.
Wow, that's powerful.
Man, it's always interesting hearing someone talk about like their dreams and bigger ambitions, because you kind of get a glimpse at their character and like what lies beneath. So it's just really cool to see some of your ambitions. Like, I'm legitimately cheering for you and hoping that you eventually get to do all those things. And it sort of touches on one of the things that can be tough, especially for people that are in sports where like the lifespan for someone to perform at the highest level, it doesn't last forever. And sometimes some people, there's fighters even that struggle to sort of know when the time is to move on. And I suppose you've outlined some of the goals, but is that something that sort of weighs on your mind a little bit in terms of like preparing yourself for like, when do you know when the time is right to, do you know? Or is it one of those things when you get there?
When it gets, when I cross that bridge, it'll come. That's the way I see it. But I've never like had hunger for the other things of fighting, the glory and that. I only used that so I had a good platform so I could help the fellow, the future, and even like the older people see. And for me, when my time comes, I know just with footy, like the same thing with footy, when I thought, man, I'm going to be an NRL player. I want to play for Queensland and that. And one game came and I did a tackle and I was like, no, it's not for me. And then I just dropped it, It's not easy to do, but I'm just that kind of person. Like, if the passion's not there, man, it's 0 to 100 kind of thing. Yeah, I'm either fully in or fully out, and I'm well aware of it. You know, I'm not just gonna fight for the sake of it. You know, I don't care about, you know, the glitz and glamour. I just fight for the positives it brings me with me, like being able to use it in a positive way. And if I don't need it, man, I'll disappear somewhere. I'll be out in the bush somewhere, just in a farm or something.
Oh, that's cool. Just speaking of passion, how do you tell the difference between losing passion and just a series of really bad days? Because there must be times in your camp where you're like, what am I doing?
Man, that's a hard one. I think that one's like, that's another thing that's like fuel or fire kind of thing. Hey, like, there could be a few, you know, there's big tragedies happening because there's like a lot of different factors fall in line and the stars align, you know, then the tragedy happens. But I'm not too sure. I just think your support networks and whatnot kind of give you a clearer picture because they're the ones that you rely on to give you, you know, that solid foundation when you're not feeling good, and then you'll speak and someone will speak some faith back into you or whatnot. You're, oh yeah, that's what, you know. For me, if I'm not feeling good and I speak to my brothers about things and then they all agree, then that's not for me, you know what I mean? I got multiple brains that are all there for my best interests, and I think your support network is vital because they're like, man, you're being dramatic, you know? This is what's happened. You're injured, you're sick, you know, down on cash or something. This is why you're feeling like this. I'm like, yeah, it's true. But that's what I put it down to. That's for me, man. Other people are different, but for me, it's being able to have that, all those networks, say even like my partner or even my coaches, I'll just be like, oh, this is what's up. I don't think I can fight this. And that happened to me last year, actually. I pulled out of one fight. I was like, nah, I'm good. I feel all right. I was carrying some injuries. And I pulled out of my second fight, and I was like, my brother was like, no. My trainer was like, bro, you can do it. 2 weeks, you can do it. And I was like, nah. Sat down with my brothers and that, and they were like, nah, you can't fight. And I was like, oh, you sure? Maybe I'll just go out there and go 50%. And nah. And I was just real, like, at crossroads. And then my partner came, and I just had all these different supports that could kind of like, you know, it's that village, man. They discuss on this, and then I ended up not fighting. Had hip and knee surgery, and man, I was lucky I did, because now I can prolong my career and come off that knockout win in Feb. And man, it all played out right, and that was because I had the right people to talk to. You know, if it was myself, I would have been stubborn and had fought injured. He knew what could have happened.
I love like having this conversation because like a lot of people, you know, we watch fighters, we only see the end product. Like we only see 5% or 10% of an event, but there's this 90% of work that's being, you know, there's this grind that no one gets to see, all the sacrifice, all the grind, all those conversations, and for a lot of people, it's like these islanders, they're just punching people, but not realizing, man, there's goals, there's a family, there's a village that you serve. You have goals to become a doctor of philosophy. You know, that's massive. And so having you on this table, having this conversation and just sharing that, man, it just shows that it humanizes everything, and it also gives whoever's watching, like, man, this is what you need to do. If you can do it, I can do it, but it takes hard work.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's the main reason why I jumped on, was to showcase that. I know you guys have a big platform, and while I'm here during my time in Auckland, I want to be able to just to let people know, man, I was that kid, or I was that young adult there at those crossroads thinking the same thing as you, and you know, with a bit of hard work and, you know, the knuckle down, man, anything's possible. Like, no matter what kind of field it is too, like, they could be pursuing anything they want in their career, man. If I truly believe if your intentions are good and you just knuckle down, man, just work hard, man, the world is your oyster. Like, as cliche as it sounds, that is the blueprint, you know. Like, you can't deny the multiple champions in fighting. They're hard workers, man, and maybe they had a mouth on them, but at the end of the day, they trained hard in that, you know. Conor McGregor, Khabib, man, they're hard workers, man. They train the house down. So they are confident, you know.
Yeah.
They're just building their luck through those training sessions.
That's me.
Yeah. That's inspiring also. Because I love it, because it's not every day we get to talk to a UFC fighter, you know, and we're very proud of who you are and what you've done thus far. And I know the ultimate goal is to be the champion, heavyweight champion, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Get the bell and ride in the sunset, man. So John Dunn style, bro. I'll be there with my hat.
The cigar in your mouth. But that's it. We wish you the best, because we want to see you win, and we will be rooting you up and on and say, hey man, go Justin. But I need to ask you this also: has there been a fight, or even in your early on in your career, where you feel like, oh man? And if fighters don't talk about fear, or like you have a bit of fear, has there been a time where you jumped into the ring or the octagon, like, man, I feel a bit nervous, a bit fearful with this opponent?
Man, that fight after Melbourne, I was like, I remember this guy walked in and we weighed in, he cut some weight. Then he come through, he was like 6'8", man, his shoulders like it's a turn to get through the octagon, and I was like, holy crap, this guy's massive. I was like, bro, this guy's massive. And I remember looking back and my brother was like, even like, oh, I was like, oh, thanks for the confidence. But man, I was like, holy crap, this is going to be hard to knock this guy out. But man, it was just, I stayed calm, and I ended up getting the job done. But at first, when he walked through, I was like, hey, was this the same guy I saw earlier? Holy shit, this guy is freaking growing 2 feet or something, bro. Holy crap. But I just made it better, eh? Like, nothing like walk off on a 6'8" dude, man.
Thoughts on? Oh nah, I won't ask your thoughts on John Jones. Should we ask about Mark Hunt's thoughts on John Jones? Nah. Do you have goals to fight him?
And honestly,
I'll fight anyone.
Anyone, man. Like, the goal was to be the best I can be and not be the champ. If he's the champ at the time, what makes him so special, you know?
Loved it.
If the rule applies to everyone, eh? They're all the same, man. I'm the same as. I remember when I used to play footy when I was from West Auckland. We played at Southsiders. I used to be like, holy heck, guys. Is there different water out in Southside? Man, these boys from who are massive. But then when you get older, you're like, man, look, so this guy hurts just the same as me. And those were like some vital lessons, honestly, that tickled me with fighting now. It was like, no, man, I remember those boys. This guy's got a beard, man. What the heck? I'm an intermediate. But those lessons, man, it honestly just helped me humanize other dudes. Man, these dudes are big boys. I'm almost 6'2", and I'm short for heavyweight, you know. But knowing these dudes they feel the same pain as me, man, it just makes it easy work, kind of thing.
Is there someone you've met that you've been starstruck? Like, who's been the biggest star you've seen?
Yeah, man, Anderson Silva.
Oh,
you know, that was quite early too. I wasn't in the UFC or anything. Someone I looked up to when I was fighting, and man, when I seen him, I went to jail. Like, I couldn't even speak. Like, gee. And even he looks, oh. But then after that trip, like, understanding that they were just normal cats, man, I just never got starstruck again with any of these fighters. Even when I seen McGregor, I was like, oh man, like, they're just the same, honestly. I say it time and time, but, you know, we're like humble people and then we're shy and that. Then we put guys on pedestals because, you know, like, they're Americans and they're from a far-ass place from New Zealand. So you think they're like these celebrities and that, and then you go chat with them, have breakfast, and man, this guy's just a normal cat. The more you can normalize that stuff, the easier it is to reach those heights, I think.
That's cool.
Well said.
Man, you mentioned before, you know, you've sort of had to come through some injuries, and that must be one of the biggest hurdles to get through, especially mentally, to come through an injury, worry about it, or, you know, worry about getting re-injured. But there are some blessings of going through rehab properly, and you've kind of touched on it a bit. And I was just curious about any new revelations that came to you while you were going through rehab, as you know, apart from the physical healing of it, but just any other sort of, it might be like maybe a mental thing or a social thing, but just a new revelation that came to you while you were having to rehab.
Honestly, it was like just like respecting the process more, you know, stretching and that. Like I used to just laugh about, man, warm up, what? But now I know, like, this is why you didn't get injured, eh? But just respecting it more, all the little nifty things. Like, we just think we're just tough dudes. Like, oh, man, I thought I was a tough dude. And they're like, put a band around your kneecaps and you're like, man, I see the girls do that in the gym. It's like, no, you got to fire up your glutes. I was like, are you sure you're going to do a TikTok of me? It's just all those little 1%ers, eh? I really respected it more. But I think for us, we just needed someone to really explain it to us. You know what I mean? Like in a professional setting. And I seen like the guys at Restore Function Physio. They were like top of the line. And I used to do sessions and I'm just squeezing a ball between my legs. I was like, man, I've seen these in those pregnancy classes and that. But why the heck am I? There's a pelvic floor exercise. I've seen that. And then you understand, you know, they get to like bring out a map or whatever and of the anatomy and this is why, this is what's lacking, this is why you got injured, you feel awkward, listen to what I'm saying, this is why I'm the one with the degree. And okay. But there was a lot of, man, it was a roller coaster. I think it was I got hip surgery and that's a big surgery. But then I got hip and knee surgery at the same time. So I was just looking down and I was like, man, how the heck am I meant to come back from this? And man, 7-8 months later, I was fighting in Perth and I was like, wow, like crazy, man. That was just the achievement of my, you know, just to make it to the fight. And then to come away with the win was just a blessing. It's just like just that reward, eh?
So and there must have been doubts in your mind leading up to that particular fight, having come through the healing process. How do you combat doubt? Like, you know, you mentioned about being determined, but even the most determined people must face some doubt.
Yeah, man, of course. But man, if you ask my team, I haven't trained as hard, you know, and that's what was like minimizing the doubt for me. Was just like crazy, like. I even think people were like, bro, are you sure? Even like, man, my trainers were like, man, are you doing that workload? But I knew I could. You know, this is why I was carried with this burden, I think. And man, when it was time to fight, I was comfortable as like, I don't know if you guys seen the fight, but I was just relaxed because I knew, man, I trained the house down. When guys were having their Christmas hams, man, I was running up hills and stuff, you know. New Year's Eve, I was there in Japan running the treadmill. My brother just finished fighting in front of 40,000 people. I still had work to do. So I was like, man, I went through all those hurdles, man. And there's the end goal right there. So it really minimized the doubt. Like, obviously the hard rehab, but then the hard work is just, what they say, the harder you train, the luckier you get.
Yes. That's brilliant also. So you described the rehab and also the training. Obviously, you know, there's no shortcuts in the game here, Justin. But can you describe for us, because it must be quite interesting, especially when it's fight night. Can you walk us through the emotions and the whole energy and so forth, and the training camp when it's the actual time to step into the octagon? Tell us what's going through your mind at the time.
Honestly, man, when I'm like, they're like 5 minutes, you know, like 5 minutes to go on. I'm like, damn, am I doing this again? Why do I keep doing this? You know, like, why do I keep fighting? I'm like, damn, I don't even have the stomach for this. And then we walk up, you know, the curtain's there before the walkout. The lights are on, you can see it behind the curtain, and they're like, yeah, we're counting you down. So 5, 4, 3. I'm like, wow. And then the man, like, usually I walk out to like Tama Samoa, and be like, ding, 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 ding. I'll be like, then life starts breathing into me, and I'm like, this is why. And then the crowd start roaring. I'm just like, nah, this is why. I get more confident. Each step I take towards the cage, I look back and my brothers are there and they're like G me up too. And I'm like, this is why I'm a bad man. And yeah, just go about my way.
Has there been one time, because is the song important, like having the right music for your walking? Like, has there been a time where you've had like a song was like, stuff this? Like there was a Mike Perry one.
Yeah, we walked out to Halo.
They got the wrong song, and then he was like, and he just went off it.
Yeah, man, one time I walked out to Brendan Mars or something. I was like, what? Catch a grenade for you. But man, like, it's a mixture, eh? But man, when I hear that Tama Samoa track, man, I'm just like, it's like reminiscent of my days when I was young, and that. But at the same time, the lyrics translate into war at the same, you know, and plus it's like a groovy track too, where you can kind of relax too. It's got a bit of everything. But I remember seeing Ty, and he was there ringside, and Bam Bam was looking at me with just pride, eh? And I was like, this is why, man. Because he's usually like, bro, you know, he walks out to like
Celine Dion.
everyone, Celine Dion, Cindy Lauper, which we listened to too when we were young. But I could see that fire, man. He was just like, I'm standing there with you. And that's when I'm like, nah, this is why I do it. I'm here in Perth. Not many islanders, but they can feel that same passion, man. And if that's them there, imagine the people back home. But yeah.
That's cool. Love that.
You bring up Ty as well, so would there be a possibility if and would you even consider fighting Ty if it came down to it?
Like, unless he was the champ or something, but man, we probably would never cross roads, man. We've been training partners since we first started fighting, you know. We've been through it all, injuries and that, and we traveled the world. Man, there's a lot of heavyweights there. Like, a lot of people ask me, and like, man, Ty's Moso and that. I have another very proud Samoan too. Like, there's enough space for us there until it's, you know, champ versus number one contender kind of scenario. Then it's different. But until then, man, it's let's lift each other up until we hit the top.
It's good.
Man, do you have a dream matchup
For yourself and your dream matchup that you would want to see?
Man, I would like to fight like Ngannou or something.
Cool.
But man, I got hard hands too, you know. You know what they say, like, he's got that deft touch, but I got that deft touch too. I've knocked guys out through their guard. Left hand, right hand, left foot. It's just the right foot, man. I'm like up the tomorrow, obviously. But yeah, I would like to fight someone where they just consider them just a freak and then humanize them.
That's cool. Well, who's your dream matchup? Like
Between two fighters?
between two fighters?
Man, it'll be David Tua, Mike Tyson.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be Gene up Tua, man. I see him. So he's like, bro, I can't. That guy looks like a
Man, he's been going handies.
I'm like, surely when I hit you, there must be someone's age of maturity or something, because man, that guy's traps. I remember last year we spent a week together in Sydney when Mark was prepping for Sunny Bill, and I remember explaining to we had this Aussie guy and he was just sitting there and on the table. He didn't really appreciate who was in front of him, and I was like, man, in Samoa, there's God and David Tua. God, man, Tua wasn't far off. The man, we put him up there. You know, he carried our flag. It was a great servant to us, and I was like, bro, you need to respect this man, bro. This is David Tua, and Tua was like, nah. I was like, nah, man. A lot of fighters fight because of you.
Yeah,
so yeah, man, just giving them his flowers, man. Shout out to the Tua, man.
Yeah, the Tua, man.
harder.
Bro, man, it's been a pleasure also. I mean, it is. It really is. Because you've got a real calm demeanor. Also, a real calm. And people think, oh, that's the bad man. This guy must be quite boisterous and must be quite aggressive. But to the opposite, you're very placid, but also very humble. You come across very humble also. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, there's the fire in that belly, man.
Oh man!
And so as humble as you are and placid as you are, you don't want to mess with Justin. And so also, what's it, in terms of after all the goals that you've accomplished, what's the number one legacy or number one thing that you want to leave behind, and people that think, man, that's Justin Tafa?
Yeah, man, that's a good question, but it's something I always think of, and it's the way I see it is like when someone's got no motivation and they wake up and they don't want to do something, I want them to go on YouTube and think, what's something I'm motivated that will fire me up, and then they will search in my name and they will watch my fight and they're like, yeah, like Rocky or something. That's the kind of legacy I want to display, that passion and just that drive and that will, man. Like that's what gets me where I am now, and that's what I want to hope to leave. It's just that, man, that guy was just hard, you know. And I see that over any kind of success is someone that can be vulnerable. Because man, fighting's vulnerable. You're leaving your whole everything out there. You know what I mean? And I just want someone to be like, man, I need a weight, man. I need something to amp me up. And they look, what amps me up? And Tafa. For me, it was like tour, you know. Shane Cameron Walkout or something, I'd be like, oh, let's go. I used to watch Sonny Smith before his walkout. He walked out to Purple Rain, and I used to go there and they start fighting. I was like, hey, you're not even a bodybuilder. Well, that same thing is just passion, bro. I just want to show everyone that I was that bad, you know, tough dude.
Manos.
My probably final question was, there's a stereotype about fighters being tough. You know, they're tough, they're determined, they're strong, they love to throw hands. But I'm curious about the flip side of that. So fighters can be tough, but people are people. There's always a flip side. And so I'm curious about the tender side of a fighter. When was the last time you cried, and what was it that made you cry?
Damn, man, I think any like big milestone on my kids has been the last time I probably cried. Like maybe when my son was born, you know, my son's 10 months. Or maybe like in my last win, you know, there's a lot of obstacles in there, and I go back, there's a lot of emotions, and I look back and I see my partner, and they've known what I've gone through, and you shed a tear and stuff about all the obstacles they had to be overcome. But that's only natural, eh? Like the guys that deny it, man, must be some robots or something. But we're passionate people, and with passion comes emotion, you know. There's only
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Awesome.
I know. Good question.
We've spoken heaps on past podcasts and with our guests around this term vulnerability. Like, what does that mean to you? You touched on it a bit, but yeah, what does being vulnerable mean?
man, like I said, like it's different, like in whatever sense you put it towards, like being vulnerable to your family and stuff. It's just being more transparent, I guess. When you get better, you're pretty vulnerable. You know what I mean? And
True.
For me, most of the time with the fighting, it's just bearing it all out there when I go out in the octagon, and that. If you're not vulnerable, then you're not like prepared to go all the way. You know what I mean?
True.
And for me, I'm just like, the way you give your loko to the kufunga when you kai your better is the same way I give my loko to the octagon. I'm there to fight, you know. I'm ready to lay my shield out there, and if I die, when I die, kind of thing. But what I'm trying to display is the talents that God gave me, and that comes with it, kind of thing, yeah.
Man, I don't love also. You sound like a man of faith. I just want to talk about religion. Kidding, also, man, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Also, you already, you talk about your legacy in terms of people watching you on YouTube and on social media, and kind of being amped up and being motivated. But you're already doing that. Also, I can guarantee a lot of young men and a lot of people are watching you that, man, that's I want to be like Justin Tafa. I want to be like that guy. He's knocking out people left, right, and center. And so also, mad props to you. All the best in UFC. And so we're speaking into existence right now, bro. We're shaking hands with the heavyweight champion of the world, man.
It's only a matter of time, bro.
But we're really appreciative also of your time, and thank you so much for coming at the table and chilling with the Usos. But before we kind of wrap it up, also, is there anyone that you can think of that would be ideal to come on the podcast that you can think of that, you know, this guy would be perfect to come on?
Yeah, man, I think someone like Tyson Pedro would be quite good. You know, he's got a good perspective on, you know, he had a couple of knee reconstructions in there, had a big long layoff after being a big prospect. I think him and his, that kind of story of facing adversity is someone a lot of people should look at, because there's a lot of young islanders that suffer those big injuries and they just give it away. You know what I mean? Guys, they're like, oh, I did my knee, so I stopped playing footy. I've heard that time and time again. And I think if you look at someone like Pedro, man, that he was already up there kind of thing. Had a knee reco, Went back to training after a year. Another knee recur, got hurt. Come back after 3 years off, and now he's killing it. Maybe it's just a good talk for a lot of people to listen to. So yeah, Pedro, solid.
Tyson Pedro. Uso,
You're in Auckland now.
you can't escape us now. Awesome, Uso. Also, every guest that comes on, we always give them a gift, a caricature of them, and so this is on behalf of the Mandate team. Uso, this is for you, Uso.
Yeah.
I love Uso.
Solid. It makes me. It makes me look good. I appreciate it. I appreciate it for you guys. I reached out to you guys for a chat, and you guys responded quickly, and I appreciate you guys for taking your time as well, and listening to my story, man. And hope for the best for you guys, and continue to inspire. Yeah.
Oh man, thank you, Uso. But so we always give our guest the last word, and any words of encouragement, Uso. Any last words you wanna say?
Man, have a dig. Back yourself and trust your gut. Surround yourself around good people, but always back yourself, man. That's the biggest thing I can say. If you truly feel like you can achieve that thing, man, the people that want to stick around will stick around. It's only up to them. It's you that determines whatever you do. And just back yourself, man. I'll say it again and again. God bless.
Yeah, awesome, man. Justin Tafa. Guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We look forward to your well-thought-out comments. Once again, thank you, Justin, for tonight. We have mad love and lafaka also. But with that, guys, as usual,
Refine, unlock,
and take charge.
Mandate.